Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I just finished doing a review video out here, and I also brought with me my meditation books. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to sit outside today and read some meditations and just have a little conversation with you guys in nature. I know people are probably like, is this his vlog? Is this his vlog? It looks like his vlog. He's sitting on the front porch. No, this is not my vlog. This is my Peterisms video for the day. So let's get into some meditations, shall we? Let's look at both books and see what the meditations are for today, which is September 25th. I cannot believe that we are in the last week of September. I just feel like it was just yesterday the pool closed, and now we're almost into October. I have to say, though, I'm not sad about it. I'm not. Like, I was kind of at first, you know, I kind of was, well, I felt very split this year. I was ready for fall, but I was kind of sad that summer was ending. And then I kind of fully stepped into fall, and then it was like 85, 90 for a week. And now I'm like really, really ready for fall. I'm ready for Halloween. I'm ready for October. I'm ready for spooky season. I'm ready. Okay, September 25th. Let's see what the meditation is for today. September 25th. Oh, it's a long one. Peace with the past. And yesterday was allowing ourselves to be needy. What was the last one that I read on here? Tolerance, trusting ourselves. Let's just read today's. Peace with the past. There was a quote from Agathon. Even God cannot change the past. Peace with the past, September 25th. Holding on to the past, either through guilt, longing, denial, or resentment, is a waste of valuable energy. Energy that can be used to transform today and tomorrow. I used to live in my past, said one recovering woman. I was either trying to change it or I was letting it control me. Usually both. I constantly felt guilty about things that had happened, things I had done, things others had done to me, even though I had made amends for most everything. The guilt ran deep. Everything was somehow my fault. I could never just let it go. I held on to anger for years, telling myself it was justified. I was in denial about a lot of things. Sometimes I try to absolutely forget about my past, but I never really stopped and sorted through it. That's the important part. My past was like a dark cloud that followed me around, and I couldn't shake clear of it. I guess I was scared to let it go, afraid of today, afraid of tomorrow. I've been recovering now for years, and it has taken me almost as many years to gain the proper perspective on my past. I'm learning I can't forget it. I need to heal from it. I need to feel and let go of any feelings I still have, especially anger. I need to stop blaming myself for painful events that took place and trust that everything has happened on schedule, and truly, all is okay. I've learned to stop regretting and to start being grateful. When I think about the past, I thank God for the healing and the memory. If something occurs that needs an amend, I make it and I'm done with it. I've learned to look at my past with compassion for myself, trusting that my higher power was in control even then. I've healed from some of the worst things that happened to me. I've made peace with myself about these issues, and I've learned that healing from some of these issues has enabled me to help others to heal too. That's called turning your wounds into wisdom. I'm able to see how the worst things helped from my character and develop some of my finer points. I've even developed gratitude for my failed relationships because they have brought me to who and where I am today, 100%. What I've learned has been acceptance, without guilt, anger, blame, or shame. I've even had to learn to accept the years I spent feeling guilty, angry, shameful, or blaming. We cannot control the past, but we can transform it by allowing ourselves to heal from it and by accepting it with love for ourselves and others. I know, because that woman is me. Today I will begin being grateful for my past. I cannot change what happened, but I can transform the past by owning my power now to accept, heal, and learn from it. I think this is such a powerful meditation, a really, really powerful meditation. And there were so many things in here that she talks about where she says, I have been recovering now for years, and it has taken me almost as many years to gain the proper perspective on my past. I'm learning I can't forget it. I need to heal from it. I need to feel and let go of any feelings I still have, especially anger. And to me, what she's saying there is the part where when I talk about moving through the pain, and that's the part of healing. Like, healing and growing hurts, you know? I can remember years and years and years ago, some therapist or somebody I was working with compared it to when you go to a gym and you work out. And basically, the way that you build muscle is that you break your muscle down, you tear it down, and then it builds itself back up, is really what you're doing to some degree. Well, I don't know how true that is, but that was how it was explained to me. That's basically what happens when you're building muscle. Well, the same thing happens when you're building emotional muscle, is that you break yourself down. You look at the things that were the most painful to you in your past, what your part was in that, what other people's part was, what your part wasn't in that, because a lot of times we don't have a part in the things that happen to us. And then we continue to like work through those things and feel the emotions. You know, you hear people say things like, well, I push stuff down. For years, I can remember when I would hear people say that, it was almost kind of like they wore that like a badge of honor. Well, I push things down, I don't feel it. I have learned that when you push those things down, they eventually come out. They come out in irritability, resentment, anger, misery, self-hatred, and really the person that pays the most is ourselves. So pushing it down, I have never learned that it works. I think working through it. And by working through it, what I mean that, because I say that a lot on here, I firmly, obviously, I had therapy earlier today, so I'm obviously a person that believes in therapy and, you know, doing assignments and reading self-help books and motivational books and things like that, obviously. But by working through it, what I mean is that first, like, let's just say if you, like, I talk a lot about bullying in my videos, right? I don't feel that the bullying that I talk about has an impact on me today the way that it did when I was going through it. I don't think it has an impact on me like it did 10 years ago. Me talking a lot about it in videos has really, really helped me through the years. Today, when I bring it up, one of the reasons why I bring it up is to explain my stance on other things, or why my perspective and why I look at things a certain way, because I've gone through that experience in my life, number one. Number two is I share that experience because I want to help other people. It's where I believe that we turn our wounds into wisdom by sharing our experiences with other people. So those are the reasons why I do it. I think that sometimes is confusing to people, and the misconception is I'm stuck back to when I was bullied when I was 7 years old. That's not the case. You know, if I'm not talking about it on video, it's not like I'm walking around the house going, I was bullied, I was bullied, I was bullied. There are other things that I've obviously gone through in my life that still have lingering effects to this day. Does the bullying, you know, like, I think that the bullying is kind of like a scar that I have that I've, like, you know, worked through, and the wound has healed. Does it every once in a while come out and something will happen that takes me back to that moment? 100%. I think that's normal. I think that's human. When things happen to me, and it's a very similar feeling to how I felt when I went through that. When I talk about moving through something, I think for me, what has worked best is that first I have to acknowledge it. We all know what our issues are. We all know what our deep-seated things are that bother us the most, those parts of ourselves that hurt the most, those insecurities that we have, those moments in life, those long moments in life, those periods of our life, eras, relationships that we had, painful things, neglect, abuse that have happened to us through our lives. We all know what those things are. It's acknowledging them first, that those are things that happen to us. Those are part of our story. Pushing them down and forgetting them is not going to take them away, you know? You can skip over chapters of the book, but you're not going to probably understand the end of it, because you probably missed something when you skipped over those chapters in the book. So just because we push things down doesn't mean it doesn't affect us later in life. And so for me, it's about acknowledging those things and giving power to them in the moment. Not giving them power over my life, but giving power to them in the moment that, yes, those things happened to me. Those things were real. Those things were valid. Those things happened. They hurt me at the time, or I hurt somebody else at the time, or I was part of something, or I wasn't part of something. Something happened to me and I was too young, or I had no choice in the matter, or whatever. But those things happened to me, and I have to work through it. And so what I do first is I acknowledge those things. Then I write it down, I inventory it, I talk it over with my therapist or my sponsor, usually my sponsor first and then my therapist, and bring it to my therapist, and then we work through it. Like, you know, when I talked about doing the trauma narrative, and it's like, doing the trauma narrative for me was unboxing all the feelings that I had, the remorse, the guilt, the pain, the confusion, all of that, and looking at all the different feelings I had. All of the feelings. Not pushing them down, not acting like one day they're not going to exist, but pushing, like, acknowledging all those feelings that the first instinct was to push them down. Acknowledging each and every one of those feelings. And allowing myself to feel it in that moment. Feel angry. Feel hurt, feel remorse, feel guilt, feel pain, feel lost, feel confusion, all of those feelings in every situation I've gone through my life, and going through that. And then to the other side, when I felt all those emotions and I've acknowledged that those are real things that have happened to me in my life, it's not giving power to those things to take over. It's I've processed through it. I've worked through it. I've worked through feeling everything, because usually what we do is we stop it at the beginning. We say, I don't want to feel it. The feelings are too painful to me. They hurt too much. I do not want to relive those feelings that I felt last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 40 years ago. I don't want to feel it again. So it's just easier for me to forget it. you know? In recovery, we have a saying that says, we do not close the door on the past, nor do we forget it. That the past happened. But we don't have to live in the past. That doesn't mean that we forget the past. It doesn't mean that we don't honor the past. You know, that doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge that these things happened to us, or we were part of it, or that we experienced it. It doesn't mean that we also live in it every single day. You know, my mom was somebody that she really struggled with that. She really struggled with this thing happened to her and this thing happened to her, and she just lived in it. She couldn't get out of it. And that was even after years of therapy. I've had things like that in my life too. You know, I've had a lot of things like that in my life. And I think one of the things that has really, really been important for me is that things that happened 20 or 30 years ago, I use the bullying as an example, but you could use a lot of different things. That today in my life, something might happen, and the feeling is very similar to what I felt 30 years ago. And so it kind of triggers what I went through back then. And I remember talking to my therapist about this, and I had a friend of mine that did this, and so he and I did it as well. And what she did was she would go back to like if you have a feeling of like extreme anger over something, then you process that feeling that's of today. Then you think back about the last time that you felt that exact same, that anger, that same feeling. You go back, and then you go back, and then you go back, and then you go back, until you can figure out where that original feeling originated from. And when you look at that, and you look at the path that you've taken in your life, and you realize that it's been kind of like this thing that's woven all through your life, right? And then you understand a little bit more why you act the way that you do today. And that for me is really what it's all about. Understanding why I act, react, respond to certain situations and not to others. Have you ever understood, like, you'll be like at a dinner or something, and like I don't know if you have a sibling. I don't have any siblings, but let's just say if you do. Your sister, your mom says something and your sister completely loses it. And you're like, why is she like so upset about it? Her experience with your parents is completely different than your experience, even though you're siblings. Her response to that situation is going to be completely different. You might get upset about something else, but she gets upset about, a different thing. It could be happening with friends. It can happen with everything. But we don't understand why their response is so volatile or erratic, but we don't have their same experiences. When we go back and we look at our experiences, I feel like I've spent so much of my life trying to understand my past so that I can enjoy my present, and it's kind of like unboxing and unbagging all that stuff so that I can enjoy my life today and live in the present moment each and every day. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. And so that's what it's really about to me. It's not about living in the past. It's about working through those moments and understanding them, because every one of those moments has led me to who I am today. And I'll probably be doing this for the rest of my life. To be quite honest with you, I find it interesting and enjoyable today, because the more I understand about who I was, the more I understand about who I am today. So this was a good meditation. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.